Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We still have not met quorum. We need one more person, but we'll do our non-voting items just in the interest of time and courtesy to our guest speaker this evening. I want to go ahead and get the meeting going. So welcome to our April meeting. Hope everybody's had a good month, had a good spring break month. We have our agenda for the evening, so we're going to skip number 2 for now, since that's a voting item. Oh, okay. We have a quorum. We have a quorum. What a welcome. That's the best welcome ever. All right. Well, now that we have a quorum, I think we'll go ahead and look to approve the February minutes. So they are attached. Hopefully you've had maybe a chance to review those. I know Angie sent them out ahead of time with the calendar invite. So take a minute to look at those, and then we'll need a motion to approve. Second, and then we'll vote.
Motion to approve the February minutes. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. February 20th, 2024 minutes are officially approved. All right. The next item on our agenda is a presentation this evening. It's one of our first for the year, so very excited to have a guest speaker from Hope Alliance. This is Greg Norwood. He's the prevention coordinator at Hope Alliance, and he's going to give us an overview of healthy relationships as they relate to interpersonal interactions that our teens would be having. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Greg, and I think we're in for a really great presentation this evening. So thank you for joining us.
And so this is really an example of something that a presentation that we would give to a group of high school or middle school students on just what healthy relationships look like. So what does an abusive relationship look like? Hey, babe. So where are you? What are you yelling? Okay, God, who are you with? Wait, so I hear guys in the background. What's going on? Okay, what other words? What do you got behind? Well, some one and over. Why not? No, listen, you're wise about your parents, but they're just trying to control your life. No, I'm just looking out of you. I love you. Hey, if you love me, you'd be hanging out with me. Hey, non-stop. So, why did you red flag? Because I love you. I want to be your own God.
Because I love you. She passed what paid. What the hell? Get to that. That was next up in the queue, so it's could have been worse.
All right. So, if you red flags for an abuser, it's about power and control. So they'll use anything they can to maintain that power and that control, including threats, intimidation, using their social status over that person. They're prone to extreme emotional outbursts. They're very willing to violate privacy. They'll isolate the person from friends, family, anybody else, limiting their independence. They often minimize or deny blame for anything they've done, and they're also willing to use emotional abuse. So, teen dating violence, type of intimate partner violence, occurring between two people in a close relationship. This was teen dating violence because teenagers in a relationship is a different kind of dynamic. According to a 2019 CEC paper, nearly 1 in 11 female students and 1 in 15 male high school students report having experienced physical dating violence in that year. Previous year, dating violence can take place in person or electronically, which is something new for these kids that we didn't really have to reckon that was. So, such as repeated texting or posting sexual pictures of partner online without consent. That also goes into revenge porn. We were talking about things like that. And so, yeah, digital dating. It's use of technology such as texting and social networking to bully, harass, stalk, or intimidate a partner. Involves sending unwanted pictures or pressuring the partner to send unwanted pictures. Stealing or insisting they be given passwords. Constantly checking texts, calls, or pictures. Stalking on social media. Sending negative, insulting, or threatening messages. Controlling their friends group, so who they follow and friend on different social media sites, and then putting them down, insulting them on social media. That with video.
I never thought he would hit me.
I never saw the eyes.
So
I never saw the soul.
He's on guilty of recently not of us in shelter water.
About me, I did not see the signs.
Like up, he asked me out.
Yeah, lad, I finally did. No way. Well, there's a child. He's a child, like, get out. She's just like, she's.
And she releases off.
Doubling out of the out of like, I love you, baby.
Oh, baby. I love you more. What if I could be Ashley would love it?
Why you prepared it? I thought that it was supposed to be Ireland.
Of course it is. I have to be anything by it. I'm the vegetarian. Giving up my phone. Why are you looking at my phone? You don't trust me.
Oh, shut up. I'm just David. Why is he texting you?
I know he's in a biofast. We're just working on a conduct.
I'm kidding. You just worrying to me. You're pathetic. She better come back. I love her too damn much. Oh, man, you're sorry, babe. You're everything to me. I'm not done. Done. You almost. She talking about all. But nothing from to me to it.
Enough, bro. I think I'm good for a very some gentleman. I don't know what's the name. Like you post that picture of me and we're going on both sides.
I just wanted to show you about here over in our. Who's that? Give me your phone. We're up and get skip up. She got up into the winter and how in the house and she's and more than that the phone.
Oops.
That's not, this is still a call.
So, what the
Calling on my
So what does a healthy relationship look like? You it involves trust, support, individuality, respect, honesty, accountability, open communication. I mean, that seems pretty obvious to us. But someone we start seeing working just getting into these, they may not know that. Also depends on, the relationships they see around them. So how do you know someone, if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, what are the reasons they might stay? Low self-esteem is one of them. If they just don't think they deserve anything better. Often that can come as a result of the relationship, the actual abuse, fear, what could happen to them if they try to leave, social or peer pressure, especially at this age. Sometimes, a lot of them genuinely do love the person who's abusing you. That's one of the biggest reasons they don't leave, because they genuinely love them and they don't really know about it. Or embarrassment because this has happened. Or again, just believing that this is just how relationships are. So if you know somebody who is in a relationship, be supportive and listen to them. Don't judge them. Let them know that they have options. Reach out to them if you think they need help. And the other, and that today, and that is to be available when they do need to, when they reach out to you. And so someone who is in an abusive relationship and they do leave them, best things to do is keep evidence of abuse, pictures of injuries, the diary, any emails or texts that they sent, telling someone that they trust about the abuse, creating a safety plan. So and if you do, and if they are injured, best thing to go to an emergency room or a doctor or report what happened, and make sure that the visit is documented. So these are certain resources. We have our Hopeline office and our own Hopeline. Love is Respect is a really good source. That whole website as well. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, National Sexual Assault Hotline, and then other websites and numbers for education. That's it.
the vacation.
All right. Thank you, Greg. That was, I think, a very attention-grabbing presentation, and a lot of us having children gives a good perspective on some things they could be dealing with, or peers. So this is great information, I think, for us to have and for the schools to have. I'm curious, how big of an issue is this? What would be your sense of maybe some statistics with teens?
Put in that, granted, that was a national survey, showed that 1 in 11 female students had been abused, and 1 in 15 male students.
Now it's physical.
Well, abused. Women jump each other. Yes, physical dating, physical.
I guess
Not even counting emotional abuse, psychological abuse, things like that.
so. What is the age range? Is this primarily for high school?
See, middle school and high school is
In
what
high school, it does. Does that data reflect that age range as well?
Jennifer, I think this is valuable for not only for it to be taught in schools, but for the parents to have access to this. Like, we need to kind of flood parents in months because it's not even just a teenage issue. It's a college age issue. It's an adult issue. So it's not even just isolated to teenage. I mean, that repeats itself all throughout the different stages of life. And I think parents need to be aware of that so that they know the signs, because I know so many parents whose kids are in that same situation and they don't know the signs.
So how do you interface with schools? Do you provide, do you offer to, have a presentation, resources available if the districts want to use them as a tool? Or
So one of the stipulations for our grant is that we personally are not allowed to go into schools. We can interact with students outside of school hours and on school grounds. But we also have a lot of resources that we can offer to y'all. So we often do this in classrooms.
Okay.
So will your grant allow you to do a presentation as on a school property after hour? I can check on that. We have we do have some stipulations, and we need to be very careful about that and just to ensure we maintain funding. Sure. But I can definitely check on that. Like, see, I don't want you going into the cafeteria during one ride. Yeah, but we would have like an eating pairing where to say something after hour would be potentially. Yeah, I will check and see. And just I'll say, but it should not be. You can share the resources. So yes. Are there resources that can be sent to, say, he knows that maybe it's to people don't. Absolutely, Jeff. If y'all wanted to use this presentation or a version of it, we'd be happy to send that through. We have other presentations, they're similar. And we also work with other groups that would be able to cover these things.
So I view this content as really kind of falling under any one of our 3 subcommittees. Really, every subcommittee that we have kind of has a piece of this. So I know I have your email, Greg, and can certainly share that with our subcommittee chairs. And maybe there's some further development into the next school year that you all may be interested in doing and working on. But yeah, I don't think this is something that we should, hear tonight and leave alone. Very relevant. For anybody that's on district staff that's here, I was looking to see if Dr. Lewis is here, and I don't see her, but is this a topic in any of our social emotional learning at the middle school, high school level at all? Are we getting any content like this out to our kids currently?
Yeah, I can't speak to that, Dr. Lewis.
Probably no more. Yeah.
Our middle schools have a little more of an intentional health
Right.
curriculum than high school do. They have, unfortunately, Dr. Lewis and a couple of our staff are at Memorial Day today. You'd be here, but we definitely bring that forward. I know that is a goal of all of ours, how our high school students are engaging in this type of learning.
Prior to the pandemic, and Dr. Willis could speak to it, give a lot more details. My department used to organize these talks on various topics, and they had done previously the violence and relationships, even trafficking. So they used to do these sessions for this. These was after hours.
So a lot of questions to probably find some answers to. So I'm going to go ahead and just suggest our subcommittees, keep this on your radar. And I'll share Greg's contact information with all of you and see where this might go into the next school year. Okay. Greg, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And if you are willing and able to share the presentation, if you want to email me, I think that would be great. I'll share it with our subcommittees.
I also brought some brochures that we will just send to y'all. How do you print them up, leave them in the schools? I thought we need this for the kids to have access.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a nice to meet you.
Thank you. And
He has an update version of this, and you'll send that, or it's unscheduled, so you send out.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, we are on agenda item 4, and that will be Dr. Gerard just giving us an update on previous SHAC recommendations and where those stand.
Thank you, everybody. Just last week, I think, I just ticked over 6 months here. So it feels like you've been here a while, and you've been it. So remember, I was here just, I think I'd have been here 2 weeks. Said Andy came, I said, I tell you about SHAC. How many of you you're before? Like, great. So I just want to thank this group. I know we have one more BD, so I just want to thank this group for being kind of gracious with me and my startup, and kind of getting used to the purpose and function of this committee. So I didn't bring a printed update, and here's why. I didn't want to print the same things, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on the off-campus fee. And so I just heard today from Tara sick, and so I told her to keep her journal full. But this week, the website launched the new application, the new information. And so there's, instead of an application for middle school and an application for high school, there's just an application. And so it cuts down some of that confusion. Since we added, level 2 to both, there's level 1, level 2 option, the full secondary levels now. So that'll simplify it. Our work right now is working with we call the legal terms for them is like vendors, or they're our partners, our coaches, basically. And the shift is really, there's a lot more ownership on their part, not only to help engage kids with curriculum at the middle school level, but also they have to go through, they have to make sure that they and all of their staff who are going to engage with our students are going through the HR background check and clearing processes, which we would want them to do that anyway with our kids. But the way the previous process was, there just wasn't really that connecting and accountability. There was just, you signed up Rock B and we're just fading this word. We just checked your hours, but now there's an intentional partnership. So Ms. Hollywood and her team are developing those training connections, or reaching out to all of our current coaches and letting them know the expectations. And it's not going to be really laborious for them. It's just going to be a couple more things they just have to do to be an approved provider or off-campus kindergartens for kids. And the other piece is we're working still. We're in the middle of the curriculum, so the digital, online curriculum. So our teaching and learning team has taken, so Austin ISD shared with us a lot of their off-campus P curriculum, and they've shared that with us, and so we're putting that into Schoology, and so coaches and teachers can just connect kids. We claim they won't need a different username and password like they would for Edgeduity. Their same username and password will work with Schoology, so it seems like it's going to be a real seamless, hopefully seamless process when students need to engage with the curriculum. So that's a progress. I think it's come a long way since our freaked out moment where we realized that we needed to pivot real quick. The other update I want to just give you is that Miss Wagner, you met her last week. She and LaShonda's team have had a really difficult past couple weeks. We've had a lot of student and family tragedy in our district, which just really elevated in my mind just how important that work is, and some of the mental health and mental health support services that our team provides us. We've been having some conversation, and a lot of those conversations have connections to some of the recommendations that you have made in the past. So my hope is that now Jennifer, I don't think she can claim her new gal card fully still. I think she's part of the team now. She knows where our office is, over our White Space. So my hope is that Ms. Wagner and I and Dr. Lewis and I, we could get together before our next meeting, which is coming up quick, and it is May 7th or whatever. But I'm hoping we can get together and intentionally look at your recommendations for this past year, because a lot of them are TBD, waiting for Jennifer and her dean to mobilize. But I think we can address those, and I think Jennifer could give a lens now that she knows her social work team, and we could go and like, okay, here's how your recommendations can play out in our paralyzed areas. The last thing I would give to you is that your recommendations this year, this may come in a really important time in our district. So I'm sure most of you are aware that our staff and our community have just gone through several processes of, we do a collective needs assessment in our district where we just gather tons of data and we realize places that we're not doing as great as we would like to be, and we let this data, like these are true celebrations. That collective needs assessment data then goes and feeds the new strategic plan. So our district has not had a strategic plan since 2018. And so I think if you watch or come to the board meeting this Thursday, you'll hear about the new strategic plans process and the new draft of that. And so this team's recommendations about, how and what we do and the support of students will obviously play into a lot of those plannings for this next year. And coincidentally, we're also trying to land a budget that is really tightening some of our resources. So we're looking to do a lot of things with a little less resources. And so I think your recommendations come at a real timely intersection of a lot of collective planning that our district is doing for the next several years. So that's what I thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for being gracious with me and starting here, and we will come to you next week with a more formal response to your recommendation for last year and as you prepare for this year recommendations.
Great. Thank you. All right, with that, we have our subcommittee updates. I have received drafts, I believe, from all three subcommittees. You guys have the mental health one in your packet. I think the reason you may not have the other two is because they have come directly to me and maybe not been copied over to Angie. So I'll get that circulated as quickly as possible, because when we do come back for our May meeting, we as a SHAC in its entirety have to vote on which recommendations are going to move forward to the school board. And so it's important we are all acquainted with those. But for tonight, I'm going to have all the subcommittees give us the highlights of what those are. So I'll ask everybody to please be very clear in giving us however many recommendations you have. We will have the opportunity to ask any questions. If there would be any concerns about any of them, now's a good time to bring those forward. So we'll start with wellness, and I know Kathy is not here, but is anybody else able to talk about the wellness recommendations that's here?
Centers around fentanyl awareness. So I'm seeing like the camera. Good. But I need to create. Yes. See it go like and don't wait.
Okay, we'll come back. I'll tell you what. You get prepared, and we'll come back
Find
on
what she said.
Sure.
And it's two parts about fentanyl awareness. One part is about giving some information to students, and the other recommendation is giving information to the parents.
Okay.
That sums up the summary.
Okay.
And the wording bears.
Okay.
I think
That's the was that recommendation.
yes, that's all we had.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any specific questions for them?
I would say it stemmed from a presentation that she was a part of with her son's club baseball team from Pflugerville PD, who came and presented to them and had some really great information that was very timely and very local. And I think the local piece, like sharing how much it impacted things that were so close to where they live and go to school with real examples is what made kind of the kids and the parents all say, wow, okay, I don't think we realized this was an issue right here. And so it's really using that type of data and those type of people to deliver the message to the students to help to drive it home.
So looking to do something similar?
Yeah, and I think she had already talked with Cedar Ridge baseball coach, and potentially the other coaches as well. I don't know if you guys remember, but they were very on board with being kind of the pilot school to do it.
Okay.
So I had emailed back and forth with Kathy a couple of times, and then life got in the way. Imagine that. Because our committee was also doing some stuff along this path. It's kind of one of those both ends. We can all talk about it. And so you're going to see some duplicates about fentanyl stuff. But we're going on two parallel tracks that aren't really converging yet. But that's something that I can chat with her also. Is that fair? Yeah, I don't think any of us care who owns this as long as someone is moving forward.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we should see a lot of overlap really with these committees. So, okay, great. Thank you. And I'll continue to be in touch as we make this master paper to get ready for the school board. Mental health.
So we have the large packet. And it really doesn't feel large when you're writing it until you see it in print and go, oh my goodness, that's a lot of words. So to make it easy for you, this could be called the one-page version, which is not stapled with the rest of it. And that just has the draft recommendations only. The longer document has all of the give it to someone else text that we're still working on, which includes the dates of our meetings and things like that I suspect most of you don't care that much about. But we also have been gathering lots of lists of resources that could help someone who maybe isn't as informed about some of these issues get brought up to speed on what is fentanyl, why should anyone care, what is a couple of these other issues. So if it's okay with all of you, I'm not going to go through the fully long stapled version. We'll just look at the short version on that one page. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have 4 possible recommendations that we're looking at right now. The first one is about fentanyl. And this one is driven largely from a new law that came in with the last legislative cycle that is called Tucker's Law. That law specifies that the SHAC will recommend a curriculum and an age range. And the curriculum has to have very specific requirements. My very brief summary of that is that when we have looked, there was one curriculum that was on the cusp of being released, and several other agencies that are telling us, oh, we're going to write curriculum, but there wasn't a lot out there that we could do a formal review on. It's kind of hard to recommend a curriculum that doesn't actually exist. So thankfully, in my opinion, that statute does not have a deadline where we have to recommend a specific curriculum. So I think it's entirely in our purview to say we can't recommend a curriculum yet, but next fall, we're going to have to do a lot of work on curriculum because there are a bunch of vendors who have heard about the new law and they are writing the curriculum that then we can review. Does that make sense, everybody? So in light of that, the recommendation is, this is basically quoting from the state law. Okay. Recommend that Round Rock ISD provide research-based instruction related to fentanyl abuse prevention and drug poisoning awareness to students in middle school PE courses. We went with that because we know that there is not a high school health class, so where else is it going to live? Middle school PE. And then just a note there that next year's committee would take up that as a topic. I have a ton more information. If anyone has questions, I could go into it. Or does that make sense so far? So this is the least specific recommendation I've ever seen. We should do something. Yes, everyone's in agreement there, I suspect. And again, we'll talk more with wellness because I think we're moving on some good paths there. The next one, draft number 2. This one is, I'll just read it. Standardize/streamline campus-based communication in non-technical, user-friendly language regarding the student environment and perception surveys, particularly regarding confidentiality or anonymity. Provide succinct explanations on how data is stored and deleted, disclose all parties who have access to such data, and issue clear statements providing parents choice to opt out and a disclaimer of informed consent. What this one goes back to is that survey with the very long name, Student Environment and Perception Survey. Some of the people who refer to this kind of colloquially as Panorama Survey, because that's the vendor that provides it right now. That term is honestly a little bit of a loaded term when you talk to certain people. So
we need to sort of separate ourselves from our preconceived notions of that for the moment and just think about this survey tool that is being used. What we discovered is that the district sent 2 really great, very, very clear emails out to all parents about this survey, and those were wonderful. But the information that was sent from individual campuses was much more confusing, where we talked to parents who were very confused on what this survey was, why their kid was being given it. They were told it was confidential or anonymous or all sorts of things that really weren't true. And this survey is one, if you haven't seen, it's tied to all sorts of things. Strategic plan kind of stuff, board goals, all sorts of stuff is in this survey. And it has very clear links to a student's mental and behavioral health, because the questions, a lot of them are about your sense of belonging at school. How are you doing? And those questions can be used to drive interactions with a student who might need referral for resources. It's very clearly tied to what our committee is talking about. But there's this confusing piece of how we talk about it. And there are some parents who wonder, am I given informed consent for my child to participate in some sort of research? Who hangs on to this data? How could it be used in the future? And we think that those are questions that there are answers to. We just need to provide the answers to them. And I think I was really encouraged as the committee leader with this particular topic is that I saw our committee all talking about it in ways that we might come from vastly different perspectives on all of these questions, but we all got to be together around the idea of just transparency. Just tell parents, what are we doing and what is it? There's a benefit to kids, so let's talk about that benefit. How is the data stored? Let's talk about it, rather than it being a little bit muddled when it got through campuses. I'll give just one example for myself. I have twins who are in 5th grade, and somehow I was presented with 3 different ways to opt my kids out of the survey. So I was like, well, so if I'm confused, other people are confused. So basically that is what it's about. We're not taking it any further. We discuss some other things, but just kind of keeping it to communicating these important facts about that student environment and perception survey. Make sense? Other thoughts, questions? Okay, the next one. Oh, seriously, folks, this one just breaks your heart. Anytime I have to talk about child abuse and neglect, it's honestly pretty hard for me. So anyway, so this is one that gets down to another change in state law. And the change can seem fairly formulaic, shall I say, because it's a boring state law that I've read too many times. But when you realize this affects individual children, it honestly weighs on me a lot. So the recommendations are stated there. Ensure that staff training for next school year includes updates pertaining to House Bill 63 for removal of anonymous reporting of child abuse and neglect. And Part B, recommend that district mental health staff, relying on experts from among the district social workers, prepare training for staff about what types of concerns are reportable and consequences of false reporting. The backstory on this one, let's see. Different states handle reporting of child abuse and neglect in very different ways. Some states say teachers are mandatory reporters. In Texas, every single one of us, just by virtue of being a human in Texas, is a mandatory reporter. If we see or suspect child abuse or neglect amongst a neighbor or random kid you see or someone you're working with professionally, you are obligated by state law to report it. But they changed a couple things about that reporting in this bill. Notably, that those reports are no longer anonymous. So if I were to make a report about my neighbor, it is not anonymous. I have to put my name on that report now. And that report is considered confidential, but you can subpoena. So that's kind of an interesting concern. I read a whole lot about the people who authored the bill, and whoa, oh my goodness. Again, it weighs on you when you think about individual kids, but it's like these people talking back and forth. It was like, oh my goodness. This seems like one of their concerns was that there could be false allegations made, and that false allegations that send the kid's perfectly fine, but yet we've reported their parents to CPS can cause havoc on families. I could believe that. So one of their stated goals was to get rid of spurious reports, like false reports. That's kind of the backstory on it. Where it ties to schools is that everyone would see that teachers have a particular view into what's going on in a kid's life that I might not see about my neighbor, but I might see when I see a kid in class every day. And we know that our mental and behavioral staff are absolutely on top of this. And they know that the law has been changed. The primary thing is that the law just happened to go into effect on September 1. So the training at the beginning of the year didn't cover it. That's reality. It happens. So we know that they're going to make this change, but because of how important it is to make sure our little babies and our even older kids are protected from abuse and neglect, we just want to emphasize that this did change. Maybe you've been an educator for 30 years and you suspect that they're anonymous and suddenly you're like, what? This changed? What in the world? Or maybe you're new and just don't know. So a little bit of education can help them. And then giving them some guidance on what's a reportable concern and what's not. I mean, I think I mentioned before, I'm a substitute. I sub like the minimum number of days a year. So I've gone through minimal HR training. Oh yeah. And I don't exactly know. It's like some things like, yeah, that's obvious. But other things we wouldn't know. So if we could get a little bit of training out, and there's already some training that goes out to people at the beginning of the year, and we know that the staff are diligent and they're going to update this, but just making a recommendation to remind them. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Gerard, when we talked at the beginning of the year, we kind of had a off-committee discussion about some of these state laws, and I think there's a team in the district that is aware of the state laws and getting them implemented. So could it be possible some of this is already in development? Is there a way to verify these couple things that are tied to state laws?
Legal team,
Yes.
behind staff, and they just went through this whole process. Actually, this year, it's just saw at school where they did all this.
Yeah.
All this. Consented to the adoption of a line agent for him like that. See, we could definitely, absolutely double check to make sure that into like.
Yeah, probably on recommendation 1 and 3.
Yes. Yeah. Because recommendations was to hop back there is a section in legal policy EHAC that talks about it. How do I know this?
Loves it. So
I would probably quote all sorts of things that are not necessary. My brain is very full right now. But the way it's written and then practice may possibly be different, and this could be one of those. The practice wasn't updated in August. We have all confidence it's going to be updated, but it's worth saying, hey, is it?
Details are chief legal.
Yeah. Check it by.
Sure. We'll make that part of our back on it.
Yeah, good.
Sounds good.
Anything else to add on that one? I think we covered it. Okay. The last one. This one I like to refer to as keep up the good work, but sometimes you got to remind people to keep up the good work, right? Okay. This is one, I'll read it later. I'll explain first. There was a change that went through the student handbook that comes out to parents usually the first week of school. And I think it came out and people admitted, I'm one of them, sign off, yep, I got that student handbook and we're going to follow it. And then I went and read it later. I'm like, oh, that's a new rule. I wasn't aware of that one. And that rule was that phones are not allowed in classrooms during the academic day, basically. There are some exceptions. The rule is really well written. Okay, we're not arguing about the rule at all. But based on my past experience the last couple of years here on SHAC, I've noticed that sometimes the handbook can be rewritten without anybody, I think they're copying from another template. That's where it goes. And I think they, maybe don't always carry through the same exact rules from year to year. And this is one of those rules we want to make sure remains for next year because it's a really good rule. And it's not just a good rule by itself, but it's a good rule that builds on each other for the number of years that we have the courage as adults to keep on enforcing it. The rule, again, is about phone use in classrooms. Our committee got to talking to a lot of people. I went and toured as many schools as I could this spring. And I'll tell you, the middle schools were kind of amazing. I really expected middle schools to be a little chaotic. And I talked to a few staff, how are you managing? All of these middle school kids are sitting here having lunch and not a single one of them's on their phone. And they said, we just made it really clear. And last year we had the same rule. And as long as we keep enforcing it, everything's great. But we visited some other campuses where that was not the case at all. So this is one of those where we want to make sure people realize it's in the handbook and we're not forgetting about it. We are going to keep pushing this one. And some of the recommendations for this get into a little bit of parent education, which is something I think a lot of us have talked about tonight, because we've noticed that one of the detriments to having this be enforced fully are actually us as parents, my kids don't have a phone, but how often would I love it if it could be, hey kids, I'm out front, come join me for your dentist appointment, and just text them. And not have to walk into the building and deal with all the paperwork and wait 10 minutes for them to find my children. Wouldn't that be easier? And we know this does happen. Yes.
They're like at the front office. They're like, just text
your kid. But wait, my kid's not allowed to have her phone out. Well, what does that happen? We also know that there are parents who are just going, hey, are you having a good day today, honey? I don't know if my mom would ask me that when I was 12, but it's a school day. And we know that there are some teachers who, it's really, really hard to do this, okay? Really, really hard to do this. And there are some teachers who have tried and they find, but the parents aren't helping, the kids don't want to do it, it's really hard. So we think that there could be a component of encouraging good behavior when we see it. You know, sending out in those occasional updates that parents or teachers get like, hey, this is a rule we have and it's working. It's worth keeping going with this. The teachers that I've talked to that have made the diligent effort to keep their kids with their phones away, they talk about their classrooms being kinder and having less behavior problems in their classrooms. Not to mention academics, which is not our focus, but they also talk about how cyberbullying, one of the middle school counselors I talked to said there used to be such a problem with a kid surreptitiously taking pictures of another kid in class. And that's gone away. And that all led to drama and more work on their parts.
And anxiety.
Oh, so much. There were so many things they talked about. It really, really got to me, especially as a mom of 11-year-olds coming into this from themselves. So it's one of those, again, we think that they're doing great. We just want to encourage it and then say, could we do just a little bit more in that reminding people that this rule does exist and it's beneficial. It helps kids, it helps families, it helps the whole school environment. So is that fair? Any questions?
You said you went into the classroom of the middle school, the campus that you went to, so their procedure was keep it in your book bag and leave it alone? Is that what they...
From what I could tell, that was the procedure. Yeah.
Because at campuses where they threw them in the box.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And what I could see from this one, it was you got it in your pocket or your book bag and we can't see it. I don't know that was the stated thing, but that's what was being practiced.
So each campus does their own thing?
I have no idea, but the campuses I've been to seem to have different procedures.
They actually have these pouches now.
Some schools do have the pouches.
I don't see them.
I work Round Rock Christian Academy, and we have the Yonder pouches.
Yeah.
And it started in last year.
Yeah.
They implemented it in middle 6, 7, 8, and they've gone up to 10th grade this year.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so obviously kids have learned to email their parents.
Yes.
From the nurse. I have
exactly.
show that the office didn't come see me.
Yeah.
I emailed their
Yonder pouches.
Yes. The Yonder pouch, for those who don't know, it's basically a happy little pouch, I'll call it, with a really secure lock on top that you can't open.
And they'd found ways around it.
They do.
When the teachers ask,
yes, just like something like that. And then there's a way that you basically lock it up before the school day and unlock it at the end. Yes. Yeah. I think, they do it, yeah, like, yeah.
the life is
I do too.
Yeah.
Yes. Because then I don't have to be the bad guy. Like Yonder.
Oh, yeah.
For everything.
I think,
we just taught.
oh, yeah. That's what I noticed in middle school. There was so much socialization happening. About the pouches, I think if anybody wants to look into it, I think off the top of my head, Del Valley went that way a year ago. I think. Yeah.
I wonder if they're.
I think that's the problem. These things aren't free. So if it's kind of working with this enforcement that seems to be really strong at middle schools, seems to be where it's someone got on the high school. I know for y'all watch it.
Fun committee.
But maybe there's a chance to, like you talked about, how it went first for maybe the 9th graders and maybe the 10th. And then by the time our kids who are in middle school now are getting to graduate, they will have grown up with much better digital citizenship habits if we keep doing this.
Well,
and therefore better mental health.
So different between middle school and high school. I have a 7th grader and a 9th grader.
Yeah.
My 7th grader can't use his phone at all during the day, and at Canyon Vista, they'll come and take it from you at lunch if they see you doing anything with it, that kind of thing. Versus my freshman is like, I pick him up, he's like, I need to charge my phone. It's Dad been on it all the whole times we haven't had let us do.
Like, consistency across,
the leadership at each campus and setting expectations. I mean, it's like the same thing that we do with our kids. Like, we set the expectations, so we follow through with consequences, and we follow through with the rules. And And it's counterintuitive. And I think as adults and as leadership at each campus or even at the top, it needs to be an expectation that is consistent. It's kind of like the panorama thing across all campuses. What's the communication? What's the transparency? Let's just streamline it so that everyone is doing the same thing. And we know the implications on kids' mental and behavioral health, social skills, deficits with the phones. They don't talk to each other at lunch. They don't talk to one another. There's no collaborative learning in the classrooms because they're on their phones. And if a teacher is not willing to set that expectation, we're not going to expect our kids to just all of a sudden say, I need to put my phone away because I need to make better friends. Like, they're not going to. Or if they're not.
So the time of year we're in, right? Like, if you're able to accept finals soon, you're kind of done at high school. Yeah. And if you're in a class like dance where you've done your spring show and you are a dance for athlete class full of boys who are football players and baseball players and track boys, and the teacher's like, y'all did great in your show and you're kind of done, like, have a conversation. I mean, but I mean, it's a 80-minute class, and I mean, there's only so much they can do. So I do understand some of it, but I do think that the whole, like, you nail them for it in middle school and they get to high school and it's like, just go, like
an addict who all of a sudden has access to something.
Are going to also, they should learn to be bored. It's going to be fine.
Like, I was in a class where the kids were outfitted with decks of cards and they were told to sit on the floor and play go fetch.
I mean, I'm saying, like, I think I'm just saying, I think the rules are very different between middle school and high school. They are. Drastically different. So we have across schools. Yeah. And I know he has some classrooms that do have the parking lot where you walk in and you put it there in the beginning. And when you finish everything for the day, he'll give you 10 minutes at the end of class to have it. And so, but I think it is widely vary. Yes, it is. That's what, absolutely. How you said it very correct. Yeah. Why?
Like some of the bullying to be.
It might be in here, but the links, of course, don't transfer. They write that down. Send the link. Yeah, I think it's well written. You know, there's always rooms for tweaking that, but
I don't think to keep talking about it as it relates to high school. Yeah, well, because there's also convergence here with the issue that we're seeing across high schools, which is rampant cheating, right? And flutter with it visit, and so I think having this here against this, I'm not,
because like we have kept it to the mental behavioral side, which has obvious ties, but it's so easy. You read these articles and it's like, oh my gosh, academic. And then they start getting into the sides of more health-related study. Cheating still has mental consequences. So,
Becky, as I listened to the discussion, which I think was really great, I'm hearing a lot of the lack of consistency coming up. And I don't know if that's a secondary piece to this that needs to get put in as a recommendation. It seems like it probably does. So that's really true. Throw that back as feedback, because it's only as good as the district making a decision. This is worth being consistent across the board, middle school level, high school level, both, whichever. But I don't think it's a policy that should be so haphazard that if you go here, forget it. If you go here, like you're...
Yeah, I never know where the line of, like, autonomy, like, autonomy,
So it's time for high school to have a little different policy.
Lunch,
that right. And there are exceptions in the stated rule of, teachers can say what not.
Yeah.
And that's great. But when it's radically different, when you go to this middle school versus that middle school, or this high school versus that high school, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions for mental health with their recommendations? Okay. I want to thank you. This is great to have this really looking near final form, if not in final form. And I also applaud your effort to go around to the schools and
I like that.
Really dig into this, you and anybody else, if anybody else participated. But I think that's great work and really contributes to good sound recommendations.
Healing.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I know, really. Yes, I was
kidding. I got a chance to get out and not take a nap that day.
So to begin to tie this up, for anybody that's here as a, we still have, I'm sorry, I forgot. Leslie, yes, go ahead.
Still working on our recommendation, and it's a lot of it is still coming over from last year on the different classes like possibly the Hope Alliance or the Williamson County Child Advocacy Center. Just tightening up those instead and getting that down, and just still working on the idea of possibly having where every month one of those organizations comes to offer an after hours if it's student or parent and student informational session, something like the Hope Alliance, because they do still have the opt-in form for this human development and set classes. So, for just providing a service for parents and families that just weren't sure about the curriculum, that they have an opportunity to still come, and it's just be a service that's free. So there, a lot of them there's no fee, just working out those minor details on getting that on paper, and then having them come to campuses. So, but pretty much the same recommendations that we spoke about last time, and that's really it. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. So here's where we are with this time of year. Everybody has gotten started on recommendations. It sounds like you have recommendations, and now it's just getting them on paper to final form. Everybody I know has done a draft to some extent, so that's great. We have to have time to circulate basically the final recommendation paper to the whole entire committee. And our next meeting is May 7th, and that is our final meeting. So the reason we have to have that meeting is because we have to vote on these recommendations. So, Angie, when do you want to be sending the agenda out for the May 7th meeting? Is it a week before? The 29th? Okay. So with that, I think I would need these final drafts by the 26th.
Yep.
Okay, of April. So that's about a week and a half away. And I will make sure that, Angie, you get copies of those. Okay. And then please take the time before the May 7th meeting to review those, take any notes that you want to. But we will vote on the recommendations one by one from each subcommittee. And then whatever we vote on as an entire SHAC, that is what will go forward to the school board for our recommendations for this year. Okay. So any questions on that? I know all the subcommittee chairs have the template. If you are unfamiliar for some reason with the template, follow what mental health did. I have the template if anybody still needs it, but I believe everyone has it at this point. So.
Can I ask some of you guys questions?
Yeah.
Your presentation to the board, do you or members of this group present formally to the board at a board meeting, or do you just submit the report?
Both has historically happened. So we have the written report that goes out to them ahead of time by whenever they want to receive it. And then it's usually been the chair who's gone to the school board meeting and just presented the summary at the school board meeting.
Work with Patty to determine a date for that.
Yeah, I want to say last year it happened. We know exactly what it happened.
So I don't think it actually happened. Because they lost before. And they are responding to and COVID.
I think last year was in June, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the same meeting that they approved the budget. I think it was. Yeah, it's the June meeting. Yeah, usually in June.
Okay. We'll
So if you will, when you do that, if you will let me know when they need that final paper.
He was a the presentation last year. She did.
She didn't. I did. I went. Oh, there.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I went last year.
Yeah.
To give it.
But that didn't happen in before July or was that in
I think it's typically.
I thought it was in June. I know there was a delay. I was thinking maybe it was usually in May and it bumped to June, but
Yeah.
No,
you can check with them. Let us know.
No dramas.
I'm around.
Hopefully. We'll see. Maybe it shouldn't be on the same meeting. It's the budget.
Okay, we good? Okay. So our next agenda item is election of next year's executive committee. I'm going to give some information that leads into that for us, which is a reminder to SHAC members who have expiring terms. And we'll talk about that process if your term is expiring. So I'm going to read the list. My term is expiring. Kathy Irwin, Becky Laswell, Kara Angel, Judge Martinez Jones, William Tuttle. I hope I said that right. Sushi Gururej, thank you. Miriam Zafar, Denise Ray, and Leslie Winters. So your terms will all expire as of the conclusion of the school year. If you would like to continue on, you would need to be in touch. Now, you talked about a form to complete. That's new to me. Okay.
There's a forms, and you and each trustee gets 3 appointments, right? So you would just fill out that. Is it a Google form or is it a print and fill out form?
It's a real the Let's Talk.
Okay.
So in the bottom, it's basically a Google form. So they'll go to the application. It's got about 4 questions.
And then
And then the board is given a copy of all the application.
I mean, it's working because somebody
Completed it. Yeah.
kept before one of the before the board.
Sure.
Thursday already for approval.
So for people with expiring terms, is there, let's say, a deadline to complete this form? Sooner the better.
Right now, I was surprised that there was already a person on the agenda for approval. So I would say, so they're looking to fill their vacant spots. The board, the trustees are aware of how many spots they have rotating off it and how many they need to approve. So I would say if you're interested in continuing to you get on that form and submit it that you're interested in so that they can, even if you're with one trustee, the trustees are at large. So you don't necessarily have to be approved by that particular trustee again. You could really be approved.
But yeah, they nominate, I guess. Is that how that works? A trustee nominates and then the full board approves. Yeah.
Now, to be fair to the process, if you know you're not returning, like I know I'm not returning, so I will reach out to Trustee Zarate to let him know that. I would say, please, if you're not returning, let that person know by the conclusion of the school year at the latest, so they can, have time to fill those positions. These are really important that they get filled. We count on everyone's participation, to be an effective SHAC. So we want to allow that process time to run its course. Okay. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think one of the emails that this should send out to everybody, but on the other dates, can that
For the SHAC.
is a 2-year term?
We got a 3-year term.
It gets confusing because most of us are nominated to fill someone's seat they didn't complete. So it's like for a year. Even it's 3 years. Yeah.
Yes. I do have Dr. Gerard let me borrow this for the evening. So if you're unsure when your term expires, you can take a look at this. I'll just leave it here. And you can see when your term expires. But the people that I read off, it will expire this year. Okay. All right. So with that, we have elections that we need to do this evening. We took nominations at the February meeting, and we actually had just one person for each position nominated. I extended the nominations through the end of March. I didn't receive any additional ones. So we have nominees for the chair as Becky Laswell, Katie as the vice chair, and Miriam as the secretary. So given that we just have one person in each position, I will suggest that we... Yeah, we still have to vote. This, of course, will be dependent on them getting renominated. If they would not be successful in doing that, I've understood that you intend to do that, both of you. If for some reason that's not successful for any reason, I don't see why that would happen, that those positions would have to get filled.
And in my experience, like, let's imagine one of us moves away or something in the summer, we can still fill a vacancy.
Yeah, just motion for it, right?
Yeah, you can just hold another election at the meeting and nominate and vote somebody into that. Okay, so with that, I will suggest we vote as a slate of candidates unless anybody's opposed to that. If you're opposed, then we'll vote one by one. But is anyone opposed to voting on it as a slate?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Do we need a motion to elect these people?
I think we need a motion.
Okay. We'll take a motion for those three nominees.
Approve or to vote on.
Those slate of nominees. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Okay. And one more time. Becky is the chair, Katie as the vice chair, and Miriam as the secretary. So all in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Say nay.
That would be
All right. Motion carries. So we have our new executive committee. All important here. Evictions and vacations. I don't know.
I need to send you some notes.
I know. She's so good at sending notes. I'm excited.
Yeah, we appreciate all of you stepping up to serve in those positions, and hope you have a great year in them next year. All right. With that, I think we are ready to adjourn our general meeting. So if anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn our meeting, we can break into subcommittees. I don't know. You guys have a lot to do this evening, but we will have that time if you want that time. And when you're wrapped up, you're welcome to go home. But we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Seconded.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please vote. All right. SHAC is adjourned at 7:15 p.m.